अस्सलाम वालेकुम एवरीवन। मैं उम्मीद करती हूँ कि आप सब खैरियत से होंगे। मैं हूँ आयशा कौसर, आपकी होस्ट वॉइस ऑफ पैंस के प्लेटफॉर्म से। शो का टाइम जो है वो स्टार्ट होगा 7 o'clock, बट मैंने ज्वाइन किया ताकि मैं देखूं हमारी सेटिंग वेटिंग सब ठीक है, आपको आवाज और तस्वीर बिल्कुल क्लियर आ रही है। और फिर 7 बजे हम बाकायदा अपने शो का आगाज जो है वो करेंगे। और आज के हमारे गेस्ट भी हमें ज्वाइन कर चुके हैं और हमारे होस्ट भी हमें ज्वाइन कर चुके हैं। तो प्लीज मुझे कोई जल्दी से बता दे, 5 लोग हमें देखना शुरू हो चुके हैं, तो आप मुझे अगर कमेंट करके बता दे कि आपको सब कुछ ठीक क्लियर नजर आ रहा है, तो फिर हम अपना शो का आगाज करेंगे। ठीक है जी, हमें कंफर्मेशन मिल गई है कि बिल्कुल ठीक ठाक है और 7 भी बिल्कुल बचने वाले हैं। तो अगेन अस्सलाम वालेकुम एवरीवन, मैं हूँ आयशा कौसर, आपकी होस्ट वॉइस ऑफ पैंस के प्लेटफॉर्म से। और फिर से हम इस हफ्ते आपके पास एक एक्साइटिंग सा एपिसोड लेकर आए हैं। और आज की हमारी मेहमान है पोला साउथगेट, जो कि है मेयर हैमिल्टन सिटी की। उससे पहले मैं आपको इंट्रोड्यूस करवाती हूँ हमारे को होस्ट हमजा से। हमजा अजमल ने हमें ज्वाइन किया है हैमिल्टन से ही, और इनका ताल्लुक जो है वो एग्रीटेक सेक्टर से है। और ये हमारे साथ पैंस की कम्युनिकेशन टीम में 1 साल से काम कर रहे हैं। और मैं सारे अपने ऑडियंस को कहूंगी कि वेलकम करें हमारे होस्ट को। और हमजा, अस्सलाम वालेकुम, कैसे हैं आप?
वालेकुम अस्सलाम आयशा, और सब देखने वालों को भी अस्सलाम वालेकुम।
कैसा फील कर रहे हैं हमजा?
अच्छा फील कर रहे हैं, थोड़ा सा
सही।
नर्वस लेकिन ठीक है।
नहीं, you'll be all good, कोई भी परेशानी वाली बात नहीं है। हमारे जो हमारी ऑडियंस है वो बड़ी अच्छी प्यारी ऑडियंस है हमारी, और इंशाल्लाह आपका पूरा साथ देंगी। और हमजा, अगर आप इंट्रोड्यूस करवाना चाहेंगे हमारे गेस्ट को आज के, तो प्लीज।
सो आज के हमारे गेस्ट हैं पोला साउथगेट, जो कि इस वक्त हैमिल्टन की मौजूदा मेयर हैं। वो इस पोजीशन में तकरीबन अक्टूबर 2019 से हैं। इससे पहले वो डिफरेंट पोजीशंस पे रही हैं इन हैमिल्टन सिटी काउंसिल और वाइकाटो रीजनल काउंसिल में।
Welcome, Paula. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Nice to
वालेकुम
meet
अस्सलाम।
you.
हाय पोला।
Hello.
How was your day, Paula?
So, well, it's a beautiful day here in
Yeah.
Hamilton, and of course, at level 2, everybody's enjoying me. I'm to get out and about a bit more. So
Oh, you are making us feel so bad, Paula. We are stuck at level 3.
not for long. Look,
Oh my God.
Our hearts go out to everyone in Auckland. 100 plus days, right? It's really hard.
Yeah.
But it's been really lovely for me because just in the last short while I've been able to see my family for the first time. My mother, she's been in my bubble, but my daughters I haven't seen, so I'm quite happy because I've been able to see them.
Very good, very good. So thank you very much, Paula, first of all, for accepting our invitation and giving us your precious time. And I'm sure that it's going to be a wonderful talk with you. And I've just learned that you are a teacher, so I'm a teacher and I can completely relate with you. Yeah. So first of all, Paula, I would just like to ask you that being a woman, you are an inspiration for many other women. So would you like to tell us about your journey of from being a teacher to becoming a mayor? How was it?
Well, thank you for that, because it was an accidental journey. And if it's possible for me, it's possible for all women. That's how I feel. So when my daughters were very young and I took some time off work, I went on to a number of committees to help out Ayesha, the kindergarten committee, the school committee. And from there, I went on to be the chairperson of the board at the school that my daughters went to, which is Knighton Normal in Hamilton, which is a great school. And I stayed on that board for some time, and I started working on another board that did environmental sustainability. And then people said to me, "Oh, you should run for council." And of course I went, "I don't think so. I'm not that person." And a job came up at the regional council, and they said, "You should run for regional council. You're very passionate about the environment and transport." And I thought, actually, I could probably do that. So I just put my name in, and surprisingly enough, I got in. So that was very petrifying because I thought there was fear because I'd never done that and I became a public person. But I loved it, and I've loved it ever since. And so next year will be 21 years in politics.
Wow. Wow. Congratulations for that in advance. Yeah.
Yeah,
You are,
yeah.
yeah.
But you know, my journey is very similar to a lot of other women. We get involved in our community, we get involved in family, we get involved in education. We have a number of skills to bring to the table, and we should just seize our opportunity, because if I had listened to the fear, which said, "Oh, I don't think I can do it," then I wouldn't be here today. Lots of good people to support me on the way, which I'm really grateful for as well. But including my family, you know, they've always been 100% behind me, so that's really, really, really good.
That's good. That's good. Thank you for telling us, and I wish that we all find a way of getting involved in the councils and in the politics. Thank you very much. Yes, Hamza, over to you.
Thanks for the introduction and your overview of the journey, Paula. I will just go into some hot topic these days, that is increase in number of COVID cases. So
Yeah.
how's the city coping up with the increase in positive cases?
Well, look, we're very lucky because we had very low numbers when it came out, and we've been able to contain those numbers. They haven't bloomed like they have in Auckland. So we've always had very low numbers in very linked groups, small linked groups. So we've been able to control that largely. So we're doing okay. We have been in lockdown, not as long as Auckland at all. And that's been really hard on lots of people. It's been hard on seniors who live alone. It's been hard on anybody who lives alone. You know, there's lots of people in the community who've lost jobs during COVID, who've struggled to get the basics that they need. Children have struggled with their education and schooling. And businesses, especially those around hospitality and tourism, have struggled as well. But also those that are working super hard and super long hours when you think of our essential workers. So we're facing all the same things that people in Auckland are, working super long hours to take care of people. But, you know, look, we feel quite blessed in Hamilton that we've escaped the worst of it, but we're also realistic that we face a future challenge together. And, you know, numbers are going to go up. The more freedom that we have, the more cases we're going to get. So, you know, this is something that we've got to learn to control and live with.
Thank you.
Yeah, but talking about the new variant that we are hearing about, Omicron. So what systems are in place if the numbers balloon up in Hamilton City?
Well, of course, we're always preparing for the worst while hoping for the best. We're just watching that new variant like everyone else is. The government is watching it very closely. We take our lead from the Department of Health, the Ministry of Health. District health boards are our lead. It's their responsibility. But I guess we've learned a lot from our previous lockdowns. We know what works to keep people safe. We know what doesn't. So I think the good thing is that if we have to go into restrictions again, we're ready to deal with it. My concern is, like everyone around the country, is the health system. Can that cope? That's something for the government to consider. But I've been told by the Waikato Health Board that we're in a good position to cope. We really need to hope that new variant doesn't take hold here in New Zealand.
We really hope so. We really hope so. Can I just ask another question over here, just for the clarity, that what is actually council's role regarding all this pandemic? What is your responsibility?
So we still run council business. We run all our core services, of course. You know, that's all your rubbish, recycling, your water services. So we've still got to keep our water and wastewater plants running. We've got to keep our rubbish collections going. We've got to keep the roads in good order and all of those good things. We don't have a lot of direct input with the health, but I think as city leaders, we have to lead people. We have to give them hope and encouragement and good information. That's the role that I play, because we're all part of a team. We have to obey the rules for COVID to be kept under control. And as mayor, of course, people look to me for some guidance and some information. So whatever I can do to make sure that they are doing the right thing in public spaces, I do. I share as much of the information as early as I can to the people of Hamilton and the Waikato, actually.
Yeah.
So just a connected question to this, that we are going to move to a traffic light system from 3rd of
Yeah.
December. So are there any preparations been made on this move, and do you think it's the right time to shift, given there is more and variant and new information coming in, which is a bit scary, I'd say?
Yeah, well, I guess that new variant has just popped up. So the traffic light system was on its way
Yeah.
from the government before that was identified. We did push for level 2 because our businesses were hurting so much. The economy was taking a big hit. Having said that, we told people that if you want level 2 to remain, you have to use the tools. That's vaccination, that's wearing your mask, that's sanitizing, social distance, all of that, and scanning. By the way, I do want to say a really big thanks to the Pakistan community of Hamilton, because they are one of the most highly vaccinated ethnic communities in Hamilton. They really got in there first. They understood how to keep people safe, and they went and got vaccinated. I'm really, really grateful for that, and the support that they've been given people whose English is the second language to do the same. It's been fantastic. So huge thanks for that. In terms of the traffic light, I'm still getting my head around the detail. I understand it to a point, but I think, is it the 29th, the government comes out with a lot more information, and we're looking for that. We're going, what does it mean? Will we be in red or orange or green? And what does that mean for the way that we operate? Because we need to know about things like, can we keep the swimming pools open? How should we run our libraries? What's going to happen on public transport? All of those kind of things we're controlling. We need to know more information. I guess the government will go to this next phase where we live with COVID rather than try to eradicate it. We're not eradicating, we're now living with it. The question is, how long can we keep our freedoms before we end up in further lockdowns? So there again, the more people who get vaccinated, the better. And of course, knowing that we may need a further vaccination, a booster, or some other kind of vaccination in the future as things do change. Unfortunately, that's the reality, and we've just got to embrace it and do what we can. I am an optimist, though, so I believe that if we focus on the good things that we have, we can fight to protect them rather than focusing on the negative things. Not easy when you're in Auckland, I understand, but, we have to kind of look at compared to the rest of the world, we are doing really well in New Zealand. We live in paradise.
I totally agree that compared to the rest of the world, New Zealand has been very lucky, and the freedoms that we had over the time during pandemic are probably unmatched compared to anywhere else in the world.
Absolutely. But that means we shouldn't be too relaxed because, of course, the government's talking about opening up international borders, and that's good for business and that's good for families. It's good for reuniting families and all of that. But it comes with its risks. So how do we do that? And everyone's got to play their part, right? Everyone's got to play the part because it's one person. And I do really feel for the Auckland gentleman who was the first case of COVID in Auckland, because that's not his fault. He did everything correctly, absolutely everything. But it just does take one person for a spread to blossom again. And that's where all of those protective measures come in, isn't it? How do we protect each other?
And this story also highlights how critical it is to follow the protocols, because of having been following all those protocols, you still have one unfortunate incidents of the virus skipping out of the quarantine and then doing all this what it did.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Anyhow, we should hope to see light. There is light at the end of the tunnel, and hopefully we will be back into our normal lives. So shifting our attention from the COVID to something else, which is like water shortage, and we have got summer again. Are we expecting some water shortage in Hamilton as well? And how are we going to sort this out? Are there any plans?
Well, we may have some restrictions. We don't actually have the same shortage as Auckland, But the good news for you in Auckland is that your dam is quite the Hunua Dam, which we have been allowing some of our water supply to go to Auckland to top it up. So the Hunua Dam is now full enough to cope, according to the specialists. In Hamilton, if we have a really dry summer, and we are actually predicting a really hot, dry summer, there can be a little bit of shortage, but nothing major. And look, people will just not have to water their lawn. That's in Hamilton, it's that simple. You'll have to have a brown lawn. Well, that's nothing. That's really nothing. Don't wash your car, don't water your lawn. It's not a big give up. We do quite well in Hamilton with our water supply, getting it directly from the Waikato River. We've got plenty of supply for what we need, so long as people aren't careless with water.
Yeah. That's the point, that we need to be very careful, because we have to save the water for our next 10 generations. I've always been hearing that the next world war is going to be on the clean water, because everybody will need water.
Water is what creates life, as we all know, but it also is like the most economically important resource. You can't live without it. You can't operate your house, your business, nothing without water. And so I always remind people that in this part of the North Island, we've got one river that supplies that water, and it starts at Lake Taupō and it goes right the way to Port Waikato. And the more it's like having a giant hose from a big bucket. The lake is the bucket, and then you've got the river as the hose. The more holes you put in it, the less there is at the end, right? So you have to be really careful with the water from the source to the sea. We have to all play our part and not waste water. Yeah. So all the teenagers will have to learn to take shorter showers. There you go.
Yeah.
Yes, that's right. So Paula, in Hamilton, a lot of development projects are happening, especially in the Peacocks project. So given there is more growth coming in this part of the country, what are the council's plans and strategic infrastructure plans around this? And what's the future looking like?
The future is quite challenging, but we've put a really big plan together for Hamilton for infrastructure. A long-term plan has a lot of money in infrastructures, particularly the waters and the roading. We've got a number of big growth projects, Peacocks 1, Rotokauri, Ruakura. We've planned for a certain amount of growth there, and we've certainly planned for infrastructure renewals. But, and here's the but, New Zealand has a $380 billion shortfall in infrastructure spend coming up. Hamilton City Council itself, in year 9 to 11 of our plan, has a $200 million shortfall for services. There's only two places currently that we can get money. One is from the developer, but you can't make it impossible to develop, or they can't build, and we need homes. The second person is the ratepayer. So you can't keep putting rates up and up and up, because it becomes unaffordable. So this is where we're talking to government and say, what can you do to help fund the critical infrastructure that Hamilton, Auckland, everywhere else needs to get us up to a modern standard? Hamilton's got new parts, but really old parts, like our CBD and Hamilton East and so on, all sitting on really old pipes, very small wastewater pipes, clay, all broken. And we need to move to the new technology. We actually need to future-proof, not just move to the latest, but we need to future-proof. And that costs money. The Infrastructure Commission has identified some serious issues with New Zealand's infrastructure to bring it up to where it needs to be to cope with the growth that we're facing.
Thanks.
All right. That sounds a little bit concerning, but I hope that we will overcome this, and there are some, something more positive happening. So my next question is again around the same thing, that we know Hamilton because of its beautiful botanical gardens. So to attract more tourists, are there any other projects happening?
Yeah, there are. We've always known that we can't just rely on the gardens. We need another tourist asset. We're putting a great deal of money into our zoo. You've got a fabulous zoo, by the way, but we've got a different kind of zoo, and domestic tourists do love it. There's a really big natural park near it called Lake Waiwhakariki, where you can go in and enjoy nature and see all kinds of New Zealand plants and animals. And there's an observatory where you can look at the planets. So we're working in that precinct to create another opportunity there. We're looking at things like staying overnight at the zoo. So as you may have seen overseas, some zoos, like Singapore has one, where you can wake up in the morning and the giraffes are feeding outside your window. Actually, Canada has it where you can sleep in glass chalets and you can wake up and see the Arctic foxes. So there's a whole heap of things, which sounds really exciting to me.
Yeah.
There's a whole heap of things we're doing around there. We're working with Māori around iwi tourism, so that the story of the kingitanga, because of course just outside of Hamilton in Ngaruawahia is the kingitanga, with Kingi Tuheitia, right, residing there, living there. There's a huge history to be told there, and so we're working with them as to how can we better tell the cultural story of New Zealand. And the third thing is our Riverside offering. Actually, very soon we turn the sod on our new regional theatre, which is really exciting. But all the way along the river, we are opening up now. We're having a modern city that opens up like Brisbane to the river, so that people will come and enjoy. And you'll be able to get on a water taxi and go from the gardens to town, have a meal, and then go further up the river. There's the Te Awa cycleway that's now fully connected. There's a lot of good things going on. We're not a tourism city like Rotorua, but we actually are a very big events city. So we have lots of national events and lots of national conferences. We have a really good conference centre. We just need to build another hotel and then we'll be really sweet for bigger events. We've got some of the games of the Women's World Cup cricket coming. We've got some of the Women's FIFA World Cup coming, so go the women's sport there.
Yeah.
We get our share of the All Black games. We get a big crowd when we have the Māori All Blacks playing the Pacifica rugby team. Great events like that. So
the zoo plan. Sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say, now we have a train from Auckland to Hamilton. The good thing is that people can come down here for those events and then get back.
Yeah. The zoo plan sounds very interesting. We can bring our students in so that they can have that natural wildlife experience. It would be so good.
Absolutely.
We actually need these kind of places where we can take students and they can learn from, by looking at that, and they can easily relate to the science subjects. Yeah.
Absolutely. And we're just building a brand new education centre at the front of the zoo and a new entranceway. And a new cafe that will attract people coming out there for a variety of reasons. The new classroom is fantastic. The old classroom was the size of 2 bedrooms. It was really small, very old, full of things like stuffed ferrets and possums and really old school ways of interacting. This is a brand new education facility, and we've got all the bells and whistles. We've got a fantastic zoo educator. He's amazing. He's like the Crocodile Dundee of Hamilton Zoo. He's so enthusiastic, and I think that's just going to add value to Hamilton's experience.
Yeah, that zoo plan really got me excited, I think.
Yeah. So it was going to open before Christmas. It's now looking like February that it will open, partly because of the COVID delays with getting materials and builders and things on site. But it's we're going to get a sneak peek at it week after next because we're having our Christmas function there. So
that's pretty good. That's pretty exciting. So how did the pandemic affected the projects in the city, and how did lockdowns affected them?
Well, luckily, this second tranche of lockdowns, they enabled people in construction to work, so builders were able to get on site. The difficulty has been in the supply of materials and specialist labour, especially when the specialist labour comes from Auckland and you have to get exemptions and so on to get people down here to do it. So that's caused time delays. We've got staff working not from the office but from home, so there's been some time delays with consenting, which is unfortunate. And then materials coming from overseas, freight has been an issue that whole of New Zealand's facing. So people are going to notice that this Christmas, that if they've gone online to get their Christmas presents, they might be lucky in some instances if they arrive on time. I personally prefer to shop locally and support a local business, but it's all part of that whole challenge. The price of asphalt, and here's a silly little fact, but the price of asphalt has gone up 20% in the last 6 months. So that's a huge cost, which means developers and builders have to ease off their work a little bit to be able to pay their bills and then carry on. They haven't necessarily got the funding straight up. So it's challenging.
Yeah, that is indeed challenging.
But we are busy. There's a lot going on. So I think it's slowed down, but it hasn't stopped development. Look at all the cranes in Hamilton right now are amazing. Everywhere you go, there's new buildings going up.
Yes.
ACC building is up. It's coming and taking shape. Rabobank, which is a head office, is in Hamilton. They're ready to move in when they can. It's all exciting, actually.
Yep.
So much going on.
Yeah, that's really good. Beside only we are being in lockdown, but there's lots happening outside of Auckland, and that's very good to hear. Talking about lockdown again, that how the council was prepared to deal with the mental health issues.
Yeah.
When you were talking about old people living alone or anyone living alone. So how were you dealing with that?
Well, there again, it's not our core business, but what we've done is work through our community houses and social organisations who've reached out to us for help. Simple things like remitting rates on charities so that they haven't got as much cost to bear and they can get on with their work better. We helped put up an organisation create a website called Here to Help You, which coordinated all the social services into one place. So if somebody needs either meals or clothing or some counselling, they can go onto this site and be directed to all kinds of organisations, depending what's right for them. In terms of mental health, we've been working to support charities, as I say, through the Here to Help and also through our community houses. So we've given more funding into our community houses to help them outreach their communities because they're closer to their communities than we are. We've had a staff member in-house who's done a great job with our staff, protecting our staff's mental and social well-being during lockdown. So I'm really pleased with that. But look, it's a hard one. I have most people I talk to have been affected in some way in their mood and their well-being because of COVID. And, I'm no different. There's been some week days when I've woken up and thought, I've lost my passion for life temporarily and felt got in a bit of a mood. You just get fed up, but I'm mindful of the people who are on their own mostly. The loneliness out there is huge. The other issue that we have to pay huge attention to and just look out for each other, our neighbours and so on, is unfortunately domestic abuse has gone right up. And we need to get alongside our neighbours and make sure they're okay and look out for the signs of that. It's sad, but everybody's got lots of food in Hamilton though, because I think what we did to help provide meal services, support the charities who provide meals, has been very good. So I think that's well taken care of, but it's more your well-being, your sense of well-being. I worry a little bit, although, look, I'll be honest, as you know, I'm pro-vaccination myself. I think it is a really good tool and a really good idea. Having said that, there will be some people who choose not to be vaccinated, and I do worry a little bit about our tolerance as a society. We need to disagree, but disagree with kindness. We think you should be vaccinated, but we need to still be human in that whole experience because nothing else is going to help us. It'll just divide people and create tension in a community when we should be reaching out to help each other.
Yeah, do you see that happening here in New Zealand?
I see signs of people pulling apart. When you look on the news in recent times, there's been more protest more anger. I think people are a little bit angry, and that's a natural part of grief. We are grieving the life we knew before COVID. And I think people are a bit angry about what's going on. Maybe they've lost their business, or they're going to lose their business, or they haven't seen that newly born grandchild and they're feeling all of that. But, I think this is the time for us to realize that despite whatever views we have, we are all a community, and we should practice tolerance in as much as we can anyway.
Yeah.
So, Paula, talking about well-being, how did you cope up working during the pandemic and lockdowns? Because I know I've been working from home from past few months, and it has really blurred the lines between work and life balance. So, how
Yes,
did it work with you?
No, it's been, I won't say it's been easy, because I have spent, I think the week before last, it was a 10-hour council meeting, and that was done all on Zoom. It's incredibly exhausting, I have to say, because I'm looking at a screen with 20 different faces and people popping up their hands and questions, and a screen with all my agendas on and paperwork, and it's incredibly exhausting. After the first lockdown, when I found that most hard, I learned to plan and take breaks. Luckily, I live somewhere quite nice, near a walk around the lake, so within a few minutes I can be near the lake. And so taking those lunchtime walks, which sometimes meant that I was therefore eating my sandwich on a Zoom call, but at least I got a walk, I got fresh air. I'm really, really lucky. My husband, I'm downstairs in my office at the moment, but we've got another little office nook upstairs. And so one of us would be there, one would be here, and whoever was upstairs nearest the kitchen would bring food and drink down. And, so we managed to make it survivable. But there are a lot of tactics to keep yourself well. And you do have to take some exercise, and you do have to eat. That's what I've discovered. Eat, have exercise, and get off the screen for half an hour. You've just got to do those things.
Yes, that's true, and I'm also feeling the need of moving more and eat less a bit probably, and eat healthy.
Yeah, there's a bit
For me, it's the opposite: eat less. Because it's such a stressful time where we are trying to manage things, and work life and kids and cooking and husband, most importantly. So it's like in stress, the only thing that suits us is, I guess, food. That is what we want.
Look, I'm lucky because my children are lucky on the one hand because my children are all grown up, so they're out of the house. And so I don't have to consider them. I only have myself and my husband, so we can care for each other. But the stress I felt was at the end of the day, the only way to see my children was again on Zoom or Teams.
Yeah.
And I've done it all day. I don't want to do that some more. So you have to learn to find ways of connecting with your family, which is tricky.
Yeah. Do we have to move back and start writing letters again? Post them?
I miss letters. I recently, and this is one of the lovely things of COVID, I recently had some time to look through some old photos and resources that my mother had brought over and tidy up a bit in some of the boxes. And I found the letters that I wrote to my grandmother. She's passed quite a long time ago now. But when I was a young woman and I went to Canada for a year to work, and every single week, I wrote back to my grandmother and she wrote to me, and I kept them. When I got back, she gave me all my letters back and said, "Here's, you do want to keep these?" And I kept them all. And that was just fantastic. Just to remember that lovely connection. I love letters. I think we should write letters more. It's beautiful language. And
Yes, and they also got a bit more intrinsic value to them than emails, I guess, especially if they're written and exchanged with the loved ones.
Yeah, and that's another thing I've learned with lockdown is you get so busy, you forget some of your courtesies and manners a bit more. They slip. So people email you and ask you for something, you go, yep, blah, blah, blah. Whereas normally you might say, good afternoon, and yes, of course, and, be a little nicer. You're just so busy. It's like, yep, got done. Yes, done. Yep, no. And I think sometimes we lose that sense that there's a real human at the other end of the screen or the other end of the email.
Yes, that
So,
is so true, and I can totally relate to this.
Yeah.
After third email in the thread, we lose the greetings and the end part.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So I've had
That's
to
so
kind
true.
of take an active note and go, no, you must say, hello, how are you? And something, and then do your message, which is nice because you get nice back if you give nice out.
Yeah,
Yes, and
that's our lesson learned today, Hamza. Yes.
yes, that's
So
true.
we have
And the other thing I learned, realized last week was that it's very different speaking to live audience compared to talking to people on Zoom calls. And I had to struggle a bit when I had to speak to a live audience. So because I think I lost that social skill, or maybe it's
Yeah.
fading.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
I
that's
went
true.
back into the office on Tuesday last week for the first time, and it all felt odd. Well, for a start, instead of a nice jersey, I had to be back in a suit because that's how I am when I'm at work. And going in with my swipe card, and there's so few people in the building. But then, as soon as I'd been with my colleagues for about an hour, it just felt natural to be back in a room working with people
Yeah.
directly. But
So
Yeah.
going on to a bit of talk about the ethnic community. So what are the council's plans in providing some support to the ethnic communities living in Hamilton City?
yeah, well, luckily we have the wonderful Jovi Belanosa, who is our ethnic communities coordinator. And I have to say, I think she does a fantastic job. Given that we have 160 different ethnicities, we're actually one of the most diverse cities in New Zealand. She does a very good job. We work through, again, the associations that reach out to us. We try to find out what it is we can do to help them. The community houses, the Waikato Settlement Centre, work extremely closely with them. And that's very exciting at the moment, actually, because they've got their expansion plans. So they'll start building the extension to their place soon, and that will enable more communities to come there. I try to get to as many events within the ethnic community that I can. Unfortunately, a lot got cancelled this year, and that does make you feel slightly more disconnected. So, for example, Diwali, really nothing happened, nothing at all. Normally, I would be going to 5 or 6 events, and I didn't go to one. And as you say, if you go on digitally like this, it's lovely to feel connected, but it's not the same as being able to be amongst people.
That's true.
So I'm hoping that all the events, the calendar events, come back because I think they're really important. I'm a great believer, however, in also encouraging communities to come together. So I get to go to many events, and I think, wouldn't it be wonderful if more of the other community were here too, to see like Diwali events, to have some of the Kiwi communities go to Diwali and understand that, to go to a Chinese New Year and understand that, because there's a lot of value in us coming together and understanding our differences and what's special about the culture. I learned so much. So events are an important part. We do sponsor events when we get quite a lot of applications, and we do get quite a lot of applications from our ethnic communities for projects that they're running as well.
That's great to hear, and I totally agree that there should be, intra-culture thing that we go into someone else's culture and events and learn from that, and that is how we're gonna understand and respect and create that mutual connection.
Yes.
So, because we do find something very similar in other cultures, which is in our culture also, and that is how we just start building connections and relationships over there.
Well, that's when you understand, there's more harmony between people, I think, because it's familiar to you and you know what that's about.
Yeah, true.
I totally agree with you. When I started moving and started interacting with people outside of my community and started to travel, one thing I noticed, or the first thing I noticed, was that people all over the world are the same. They react happily towards the same things, and they get annoyed at the same things as everyone else. And then there are more things common between us than the differences.
Yeah.
Well, and it unites people. There again, I want to say a big thank you to the Pakistan community for providing a food day for one of the vaccination centres. So that was really wonderful to outreach to people. Say, well, come along and get vaccinated and try some of our traditional food. I thought that was really amazing.
Yeah, that's good.
That was really good, and a lot of people really liked it, which was a good piece of feedback that we got from them.
I was just 4 hours away, and I couldn't come down and get some food myself.
And the feedback that we got from the pharmacy was that there were more walk-ins that day than that they get normally in other days. So
that's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was good.
Yeah, PANZ has been doing this all around the lockdown in Auckland as well, providing food and food packs for people who need it. So yes, I guess it is a great work done by PANZ. Paula, thank you very much for answering all the questions. I mean, you have been so good. My other question would be that, again, I'm just coming to women empowerment and all that things. So what key message would you like to give to women, especially to advise them how to make a career in politics or come into this field?
Well, first of all, I think it's really important, wherever you start from, to use your voice and to express your opinion. People say to me, well, if I talk to council, will they listen? And I say, well, I tell you when they won't listen, and that's when you don't talk at all. So, you have to be a voice for something you believe in. Go with your passions. The passion that took me to politics was about the environment in the beginning, looking after our environment. And I grew to love other things over time. But that's what drove me to put my hand up. We can do it. We can do it. We just need to have faith in ourselves and find some people who will stand by you and give you support and encouragement. That's the main thing. It's just have your passion drive you. And realizing, of course, if you are not successful once, that doesn't matter. You try again. You keep going after the same goal that you want to. I mean, look, me, I am mayor now, but last time I missed by 6 votes. That happened. And that's okay. I guess I just dusted myself off and had another go because I felt so strongly about having a chance to try this special role. But remember, I had doubts and I had fears, but I still did things. And I think that's the thing. You don't listen to that voice that goes, I don't think you can do that. No, why would you? Listen to the voice that says, no, I feel passionately and strongly about this, and I'm going to say something, and I'm going to do something in my own small way. And that you try things, and then you get the confidence. I was on the kindergarten board, and we were fundraising for new play equipment. That's how I started. I stepped into that arena. Then I went onto the school board. Then I went on to a community board, and then. So each time I challenged myself a little bit further. It's all right to feel fear and doubt, but you can't let it hold you back.
So, Paula, we got one question from on our comment section where Munir is asking that how will you tackle the new variant that is coming in?
Well, I take my advice from the health specialists. Whatever they say that we should be doing, I will support it 100%. I'm not one of these people who goes on to Google and thinks I read the truth there. I ask experts. I look to the experts. There again, look, people have to do what they know keeps them safe. We have to. If I keep me and my family and my friends safe, and they keep themselves and their families and their friends safe, so that it goes, we keep each other safe. Our future is actually in our own hands.
Yeah, that is so true. So before we wrap it up, I think we should end on a lighter note. So I'll ask you, where would you want to go overseas when the borders open?
Well, actually, I've been talking about this because I have some very dear friends in Canada. I went once and stayed a year in Canada when I was young. I worked there for a year, and I made some beautiful friends. And every 4 or 5 years, we catch up somewhere in the world. Either we meet them or they come down and meet us. So we were planning a trip to Croatia. It was the next place we were going. I'm not sure that will be possible for some time. But they believe they may be able to travel down from Canada to somewhere in Australia, like Adelaide. And that may be a safe place for me to go. I mean, I have to be careful because I'm so busy. I can't afford to have a fortnight in 2 weeks in MIQ. I need to be
Yes.
working. So it'll be somewhere close to home. But, look, our Pacific Islands are some of the most beautiful places in the world. And actually, pinch me, but we live in one of the most beautiful countries ever. So any which way you head in New Zealand, you're going to see some beauty.
That's so
That
true.
is so true.
Yeah. We were also planning our holiday today, and I was like, just take me up north, and that would be more than enough so that we can come back before the school holidays start, end. Yeah.
Yeah, and I have to
So,
say, one of my favourite places in New Zealand where Greg and I do get away to whenever we can is Taupo. So I love the lake.
yeah.
I'm obviously very pale skin, and so I don't get out on the beach
Hmm.
because I would be as red as my sweater quite quickly. So I don't do that. Big hat by the lake, lovely.
Yeah. Great. Great.
The lake is really lovely. Yes.
Yeah. Paula, just another question. Do you see us as a New Zealand coming back to alert levels at any point?
It's we won't come back to the same system that we've had. I don't think we'll go back to that. I think we'll stay in the traffic light system. But I do think we could come in and out of restrictions. So I think that we may go to more freedom, and then something may happen and we may get less for a while. I think we should expect that. If it doesn't happen, well, that's great. But I think we should expect that, especially with the new variant, if it comes in really large numbers, we may go down into lockdown of some sort again.
Yeah, let's hope that this doesn't happen. Yeah.
Well,
Fingers
that's right.
crossed.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
as now we are at so Paula, as we are at the end of the program now, do you have any message for the community?
Well, look, I just want to thank again the Pakistan community for the leadership role they've taken in Hamilton. They truly have, in looking after your people, but also looking after the wider Hamilton. I think that's outstanding, and I know you're always looking for opportunities to lend a hand to the wider community. I appreciate that. I would like to wish everyone a safe and happy holiday season, wherever you do travel in New Zealand and wherever you're going. Hope that many of you who've been separated from friends and family get to spend some special time with your friends and family over this next few months as we come into the fine weather.
Yeah, thank you very much. Sorry, Paula, there is another question for you from one of our viewers, so we won't say goodbye right now. So it is from Dr. Hanif. The approval rate of multicultural New Zealand is eroding since 2012, according to surveys conducted by Victoria University. So what's your experience?
Well, I didn't know about that survey, and I'll have a look because that sounds like something I should know about. I think that would be, that would be disappointing. I haven't noticed it, but then again, we're living in a strange time in a strange way. So a lot of things that may be happening out there are invisible, are more invisible than they would normally be. As I get out and about, I would like to think that the ethnic communities could tell me if they felt things were not going well, and we could talk about how we could play a part together to make that better. I try as a leader to bridge the gaps as much as possible to bring people together, and we have to do that more than ever right now.
Yeah, that's very true. And just talking about the person who has put this question up, he is a researcher, so maybe that he's Dr. Hanif Kazi, who have been
Well, I would really love that to have a look at that survey. I haven't seen it, and I would like to understand. That's really, really disappointing, isn't it? I mean, one of the one of the most fabulous things about New Zealand is that we are quite warm-hearted people, and we are multicultural, and we are a fantastic country in which everyone should be able to thrive. I know there is poverty in some areas of our community, and there is disadvantage. I know that, but I believe New Zealand is a good country to live in, and we should be trying to improve the experience of everyone. And then go back to that whole word of tolerance. I've been thinking a lot about tolerance just lately, because I've been wondering and worrying about what will happen when we've got vaccination passports, and how will people react against each other. So I've been thinking about that. Everything, in my view, comes back to building up those opportunities to be tolerant and understand each other.
Yeah, we really hope that. Yes. Thank you very much, Paula. You have been so good answering all the questions and giving us insight of all the new projects in Hamilton, which we are really looking forward to. And I am sure that my first trip will be to the zoo, because I really want to see that
Yes.
with my students. Yeah.
Yes. Well, let me know, because I'm sure we can help put together a really good experience. There's some amazing people. The zoo has a new director, and newish director, and he's fantastic. He took me for a preview. My mum, for the first time ever, used a mobility scooter because she's got a bad knee, and got all around the zoo. And I have to say, I had the first experience of putting my hand inside the fold of skin on a rhinoceros.
Wow.
I know.
So cool.
You can do all of those amazing things. I didn't realize you could even touch the rhinoceros. But they bring them over and feed them something, and you can stroke them. Apparently they like a good scratch, and I didn't even know that. And because they've got those big folds, if you put your hand in the folds, it's really, really soft in there.
That's
Isn't that fantastic?
Very good.
So when the zoo opens, do we get to do that?
Well, you can organize to do that. It's fantastic.
Okay. That's cool.
Yeah.
I look forward to it.
Definitely.
Just tell them Paula said I could touch the rhinoceros, and you arrange that.
All right, so we're gonna get a special treatment. Thank you very much for that. Yeah. Anyhow, thank you, Paula, for your precious time. We know that you are busy, and giving time out on a Sunday night, it's very much appreciated. And we wish you all the very best for the future projects that you have got. And you have a good night. Thank you very much for joining us.
Please keep talking with me, and thank you for inviting me. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Paula. You have a good night.
Thank you. Good night. Yes, हमजा कैसा लगा आपको बात करके पोला से?
नहीं, बहुत अच्छा लगा. उन्होंने बहुत सॉफ्टली और बात की, सारी चीज़ों को बहुत प्रॉपरली डिटेल में एक्सप्लेन किया. और आई होप के देखने और सुनने वालों की भी मालूमात में इजाफा हुआ होगा, और उनको कुछ तसल्ली भी मिली होगी कि शहर काबिल लोगों के हाथ में है.
हाँ जी, बिल्कुल. और अपने व्यूअर्स से मैं कहना चाहूंगी, थैंक यू वेरी मच हमें देखने के लिए, और मैं उम्मीद करती हूँ कि शो आपको अच्छा लगा होगा. और हमजा, मैं आपको बताती चलूं कि ऑकलैंड का ये एक्चुअली लास्ट वीकेंड है लेवल 3 में, और नेक्स्ट वीक हम मूव हो जाएंगे अपने ट्रैफिक लाइट सिस्टम में. अनफॉर्चुनेटली हम रेड में ही रहेंगे. That has already been decided, but let's see कि other cities जो हैं वो न्यूजीलैंड की कौन से ट्रैफिक लाइट में मूव होती हैं. बट लास्ट मैसेज ये रहेगा कि कीप योर सेल्फ सेफ. अपने सारे जो हाइजीन प्रोटोकॉल्स हैं उनको फॉलो करें, और अपना बहुत सारा ख्याल रखें. और अगले हफ्ते हम एक नए शो के साथ, अपने नए मेहमान के साथ आपके सामने हाजिर होंगे. तब तक हमें इजाजत दीजिए. अपना बहुत सारा ख्याल रखिए, और अल्लाह हाफिज.
अल्लाह हाफिज.
Allah Hafiz.